Expert Authority World, I am super excited to bring to you one of the most nicest guys I know, one of the most successful guys I know, and one of the most down to earth guys I know, Scott Joseph. He's the CEO and founder of J&L Marketing. He's the podcast host. He has a great family. His daughter is adorable. She's already an entrepreneur herself, and he wants to help people in a bigger way. And what's ironic to me is he's already doing it at a much higher level than most are. So I'm privileged to know him, and I can't wait to jump into our story. But you're in for a real treat. So I'm going to bring him up right after we thank our sponsor. Every business needs a book, including yours. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Once again, that's freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Scott Joseph. Scott, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, Mario. Thank you.
Glad to hear that. I'd imagine with all the cool stuff you're up to, what are you most excited about?
What am I most excited about? Well, I'm kind of going into a little bit of a new area for me. So, I've got the auto dealerships, I've got the agency, uh, the podcast is moving full steam ahead, and some different mastermind events full steam ahead. But the agency and the dealerships, I've got great people and great teams doing most of the heavy lifting there, which has allowed me to free up some time. And I think what I'm most excited about is I can't say it on air, but I have got a project that I'm going to be working on that literally just came. I was in Monterey and Pebble Beach area this week, met some fascinating, incredible people out there. Uh, and an opportunity has come up, and I am going to pursue it full steam ahead. So it's obviously auto related, and
That's exciting.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it very much.
All right, everyone. Well, I have no patience, so I'm going to end the show now so he can tell me. So we're not on air, but that sounds fascinating. And congrats, because I know it's not a small feat over the time. I think it's every entrepreneur's dream to go, my business is at a point where I can free up some time. I think a lot of
Yeah,
people, you start the business so you don't have to work a job and have the 9 to 5 or whatever. And then
that's
it
right.
ends up taking up so much of your time, you have less time than before. But you're pursuing your dream. I get it. Like, I'm
Yep.
100% that way. But the dream is to free it up. But I don't think too many people ask the question, what do you do when you hit success? You have all the free time. Now what? So
Well, I
it
think
actually
I,
go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, I think that's something that probably hits a few people. You get there, and it's not easy freeing it up mentally, being willing to walk away from that, and not walk away, but uh, relinquish
Control.
the control, yeah, that you once had. So
How easy
I
was it
think
to
it.
put people in place and trust them?
Well, I had the right guy.
Okay,
Um,
that's a blessing.
it's we're completely two different personalities. I'm very visionary, and he is an outstanding integrator.
Okay,
And he is more literal, where I will speak more in generalities. And so a lot of times we're on the same page, but sometimes it takes us several hours to finally understand that, oh, we're saying the same thing. So initially, because I was so worried about his intention about a specific maybe project or direction or something, I wanted to make sure that we were in alignment. I think at first I wasn't very good at it, but I've become good, because the more I've stepped away, the better it has. The better, the more I've gotten out of his way and uncuffed him a little bit, the better everything has performed. So
I,
it's becoming easier and easier.
I can relate that to that too. I've told many people the less I touch, the better it goes.
That's exactly right.
because it's like you see where you want to go, and it's like, okay, we got to do it. Well, why? I remember the first
Yeah.
person I hired years ago for web design. He's great at logos and designing the sites, and all of a sudden I was sitting in the office, and I'm like, you want to take this meeting?
Yeah.
I didn't even know his sales ability. He's like, okay. I just didn't want to have to be there. I'm like, the whole point of this business is I don't need to do everything. So I was like, all right, what's the worst that
Yep.
happens? It doesn't go through. He closed the deal, did the website, did everything. This is like 14, 15 years ago. But it was just like, huh, I think I don't know what I was doing, but it wasn't there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can get like 50 more people to do this. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So I know it's a huge milestone, and we were talking about it at dinner and everything, and you were just like, uh, I'm happy for you because you were thinking about what do you want to do now? Because you're still a young
Yeah.
guy, you have all this going for you, and I know you don't want to sit around and watch grass grow.
No, and I didn't want to jump into something just for the sake of doing something.
Yeah,
So, I'm you can always tell when there's more to do because you're uncomfortable uh, doing things that are enjoyable and fun because you feel there's almost like the guilt might be the wrong word, but there's an internal, for me, like guilt feeling like, no, there's more to do here. There's either more to give, there's more to offer, there's something else
it's
I
hard
have.
to
Yeah,
relax.
correct. So, but I didn't want to jump into something to where all of a sudden I was doing work for something I wasn't passionate about and wasn't enjoying because I'm past that stage. I should be able. I felt like I should be able to pick and choose what I really want to do, and so I let it come to me. Um, and I am making it a mission to get it done.
Good for you.
So, yeah,
Yeah, and maybe not. It's hard to relax. I think we all can relax, but it's hard to just fluff around and do whatever when you know there's something more that could be done that's productive, that adds value, that helps other people.
yeah.
I have no problem relaxing at all. At
I
all.
don't either.
But when I
I don't
know
either.
it's like there's people that you can help and there's all this stuff you can do, I think when you really do have that passion and you genuinely want to give, it's hard to sit there and watch, oh, I don't know, like an entire movie marathon and do nothing, like completely nothing, and just be like, okay, I did nothing for a day or two. I mean, or a week or two. It's like, how did we ever do this in high school and middle school? Like, I was great
Yeah.
at doing nothing then. You know what I mean? Not striving for that now. So I'm glad something did come to you. So I want to ask you a few things about your dealerships because I know a lot of people with brick and mortar businesses. Some of my first clients, very successful in their field also, and they
Yeah.
started with the brick and mortar, and we were helping them transition online. You actually started with the marketing and got the
Yeah.
dealerships afterwards. How? Tell us more about that.
Well, how far you want me to go back?
Yes.
Yes. All right. You know, for all this story to make any type of sense, I really go back to when I was in college, and I'll try to make this somewhat quick without skipping over too many important points.
I'm not
Uh,
rushing you. You share what you want.
my dad uh, was a very good salesperson and started off selling vacuums at Sears, and left that in the late 70s during the gas embargo stuff where it was gas back then was there were lines to get gas if you could save a couple pennies, and he got a job selling a poor career choice at the time, those Lincolns, which were about 2 rooms long, those big long Continentals and gas guzzlers.
With the
But
suicide
he
doors?
quickly, yeah, but he quickly rose. I think he got up to in the top 10 in the country selling Lincolns, and eventually went on to become a general or a sales manager at a Chevy store, and within that same group, then on to become general manager. So as a kid, our lifestyle changed, within 1 to 3 years drastically. And so I fell in love with the auto business because I watched my dad, who did not graduate college, um, was extremely successful. I've always been competitive with my dad. Um, Always tried to outdo him or one up him if I could, in a fun way, not in a not in a toxic way, but a very loving way. And uh, so I wanted to sell cars. I mean, that was what I wanted to do, right? And I eventually wanted to be a general manager and follow in his footsteps and do that. And so, I used to beg him. I was working at the dealership as a lot attendant. I used to beg him to let me just sell cars, and I'm in college at the time, and he would never let me. So, he goes off on a 20 group, which was 20 dealers get together from around the country, share best practices to try and improve. And when he did that, I called up to one of the other dealerships within the group. I'm living in Louisville, and this group's up in Cincinnati. And I called up there and I said, "Hey, I'd like to sell cars." And they said, "Well, when can you come interview?" And I chose this group because of my dad's reputation. I knew I'd get an easy interview. And it was Jeff Weiler Dealer Group. And they said, "When can you come up?" I said, "I can be up there in an hour and a half." So went up there, got the job. My dad and mom were in California. I dropped out of school, moved out of the house up to Cincinnati, started selling cars. Uh, Quickly realized, wow, this is a lot more difficult than I had thought. I'm getting my nose bloodied left and right, but I did all right. I weathered that storm. I did not achieve. There were moments that I did extremely well, and my ranking within the group was very high, but it was like a yo-yo. It was up and down. I wasn't
The
mature enough.
consistency.
Yeah, I wasn't mature enough to understand how to be a pro and do what it really takes to succeed at a high level. I was 19 years old. I remember because my dad had such good success within that group, both in sales and management, and then on his running a store as a general manager. Uh, the owner would always give us tickets to Cincinnati Reds games, Bengals games, pro wrestling, whatever it might be. And so I had a friendship with him since I was a little kid. And I'll remember the owner, Mr. Weiler, came into the store one day, pulled me into the office, and I thought, all right, here we go. Things are going to start happening now. And
I'm gonna
he
get all
pulls
the
me in.
secrets, right?
Oh yeah, well, I thought we're going to start talking about career development, and first question right out of his mouth: "Why'd you drop out of school?" It's I'm explaining to him what I want to do and this and that, and he goes on to tell me what he would expect out of a GM. And he says, in 10 years, when I'm looking at you to be a potential GM of a store. And from when he said 10 years, I don't think I heard a word after that, because I'm thinking to myself, well, hell, I didn't drop out of school to wait 10 years. If I was going to wait 10 years, I'd have just stayed in school and had my fun. And then I didn't know where it was a time thing or an age thing, or I don't think he meant it to be an age thing. He probably more of an experience thing. Uh, but that to me um, turned me off from that. And like I said, I was up and down in terms of my success. I was eventually went on to sell with my dad because I wanted to be taught from him. And after a year, I had a friend that was starting or doing extremely well selling direct marketing to the auto industry. And he wanted to start a company with me doing that and selling that product and those services. And that's where we started J&L Marketing. And so then I started selling to the dealers. And that was very enjoyable for me because I knew how important it was to get quality traffic into a dealership. And when they had a great weekend, and many times record setting weekends, you could just see the excitement in it because they're competitive people. And that really fueled me. It was exciting to help people win. And
Let me just pause you real quick. When you say traffic,
yeah,
you're talking about the leads and conversions. I know what you're saying, but no pun intended with the auto
yeah.
industry. But I just didn't want anyone thinking you meant like literally maybe you meant literally driving in, but you mean leads, conversions, and
Yeah.
the marketing for it.
Leads. That is 100% correct. Yeah. So correct me anytime I start using car lingo
No, I like it.
in here.
Detroit Motor City. I'm cool with it. I'm just
So,
helping everyone listening.
the agency grew. I always wanted it to be successful, and I went into it for the right reasons. I did not go into it to chase money. I went into it to be the best that we could in this specific niche. Um, and within about 5 years, it really started taking off. And I mean, it achieved levels of success that, looking back, I did not envision that. And so, in a roundabout way, it led me to opportunities to buy dealerships. And so I went a very non-traditional way to get my stores. All three are Honda stores. One's in Johnson City, Tennessee. One's in St. Louis, West County Honda, and then Cape Girardeau Honda in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. So it was the agency that allowed me the opportunity to not only make the connections and build the relationships within the industry. That's where the opportunity came, but it also gave me the financial ability to get the stores as well. So yeah, so now it's the agency and the three dealerships, and I've moved on to, for the agency, my role is more relationship building, vision, and I do the podcast, and I do events off of it as well. So mastermind type stuff.
The fun stuff, as I call it.
Yes, that's things I enjoy. Yes.
Yes. And you're good at. It's your area of strength. Joking aside, it's not just the fun stuff, but that is what I call it, because I'm very much, I like doing the same thing. But
Yeah.
it's what our strengths are. It's, we'd be miserable sitting in a room looking at a corner or something all week.
Correct.
So
I like connecting. I love connecting people. I love being in a room with really successful entrepreneurs and being presented with a big challenge and trying to come up with solutions to those challenges.
absolutely,
That really fuels me. So
the creative side and the ingenuity that's required is, I think everyone has it. Most people are afraid of it or don't live into it. And it leads me to one of my questions for you. As we unpack this, for someone that's going, I want to do more marketing, I want to do whatever the case is, but how you're saying you started with the marketing and then you
yeah.
went into the brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Why do you, if for someone that's going, I don't feel like I'm in the right lane right now, but I'm afraid to switch, what would you say to them?
Well, for me, um, I knew I knew it was time for me to do other things, because things that used to excite me became very mundane to me. I dreaded doing them. And so when that happens, you start to do things that are important and need to happen. You start doing them less and less, or procrastinate them and try to put them off as long as you can. And then that just makes everything suffer. So I knew that I had a great right hand person who is a partner in the agency now. Just gosh, he just owned it, and it reminded me of myself, uh, you know, a while ago. And he just owned it and really just took it on to. I knew it was better off in someone that in someone's hands that approached every day that way, right?
They had the
And
passion and cared about it.
correct. And so you have to have that person. You can't necessarily. You have to elevate and delegate, or delegate and elevate. Either way, I don't know which one comes first, but you have to be able to. You have to be able to. I guess.
Identify your blind spots or weaknesses and put the right people in place.
Oh, 100%. And integration is not my strength. It bores me. I'm not one that can go through and sit. Now, I don't mind sitting it back and identifying what's wrong with the process, this and that, but I'm not going to sit there and monitor it and make sure it's all, you know, the routine, the detail stuff of all that. That does not excite me at all. It's just I dread that with a passion. And so, to answer your question, it's just like anything else. You just have to go. You have to do it. So if the first step is you don't have anybody that you can trust to turn something over that would allow you to step away and do some other things or pursue other passions, then the first thing you have to do is you have to identify someone and start elevating their abilities and elevating their responsibilities and get them where they need to be so you can do that. But you have to take action and start on it right away. It's not about planning and, I'm going to do this and that, and all that delay crap that's you just got to start doing. It's just like anything else, right? You say it in your book. All right. You got to start writing at some point. You have to do. And that's the advice I would give on that.
That's good advice. I think it's that so many people get caught up with that perfectionism. Oh, what about this? What about that? And you spend 6 months thinking about it when it's like the 6 months are going to go by either way. You can take that time and go, all right, this week we're going to focus on A. Next week we're going to focus on B. I can appreciate split testing because you can take those 30 days, get 2, 3, 4 variations, maybe 5. I don't know, maybe 100. Who knows? The point is, it's like you get the results and you have at least data to go off of, and maybe once you get the ball moving, you can create a better plan or something, but you got to get that ball rolling. And too often it's like, well, is it the right color? Is it shiny? Is it parked in the right spot? Is it parked somewhere? Yeah, shiny balls parked somewhere, but
for someone that's in that, it can be a scary proposition. It takes a little bit of courage to step away and do something. There's different levels of comfort zone, right? I think very successful entrepreneurs, if they look back at the beginning, they'll tell you that they didn't limit themselves or try to stay in a comfort zone. And they took risks that allowed them to get out. And so they sometimes, and I speak firsthand knowledge, because I can tell you, looking back at myself, I went through this. I never thought of myself as having someone that limited myself to comfort zones. But when I got successful and say plateaued, all I did was just reach a very successful comfort zone. And at some point I realized you don't have the same drive you have at this, because this is, like I said, mundane to you now. You have to do something else, and you have to have enough awareness to recognize it is time. You're afraid to lose what you have and don't want to give it up because it's cushy and it's easy now. But you got to continue to grow, because sooner or later, if you don't, that's going to start going backwards. You're going to get out of that whatever that comfort zone is. You're breaking out of it one way or the other. You're breaking through it and then expanding it, or you're going to shrink it. So one way or the other, it's changing. So I choose growth.
Yeah, same here. And I'll say the beginning, I tell people all the time, don't get stuck in startup mode, because I think so many people, they're priming the pump for so long, they never realize they have to shift roles and, that relax and go, hey, I'm going to put some people in place. They're basically self-employed forever. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what your goal is. But I don't think it's most entrepreneurs' actual goal, but I got to get this off the ground. I get it. I totally get it. However, once it is off the ground, that comfort zone is very dangerous, because it's like you've been working so hard going like this, or whether you launch a show, a book, a podcast, business, whatever, it's like, now what? This thing's actually running. I hit my goal. I hit my dream, but I don't need to be doing that every day. So speaking to the point of success, how would you define success, and when did you realize you hit it?
Well, I think there's just different levels, and it just depends on who you are. I can tell you, the first year I started J&L Marketing, I felt extremely successful. Looking back, it was successful in the sense I was 22 years old and didn't know what the hell I was doing, and it was working.
So
But
you're telling me you didn't start off perfect?
oh hell no, no. It you have to really not be afraid to fail. And going back to why people always plan and plan and plan and never start, it's because deep down they don't want to start. For whatever reason, that comfort zone keeps them from moving forward. If and so they have to break through that, right? But I look back, I think I felt successful after the first year. I mean, I did because I was winning. We were making money. It was growing. I felt a sense of freedom
Mm-hmm.
because I was doing my own thing. Um, I'm a horrible employee, and that doesn't mean everybody should be an entrepreneur. I'm
You
not.
and me
I'm not.
both.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I had a discussion on. We were on Clubhouse with the group the other day, and the debate was, should you be an entrepreneur and do your own thing? Where's the real wealth come from? But the reality is, not everybody is meant to be an employee. Not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. And so, there was a group of people saying there's an intrapreneur. That's the new phrase. What, intrapreneur? But why not just a fancy word for being a high paid employee in sales, right? And letting the employer take on all the risk of inventory and this and that. And I will say, I think that worked well for me. And you know why that worked well for me? Because it told me that's not what I want. It let me know with certainty that was not the direction for me. So did I learn sales? 100%. But I learned more about selling once I started working for myself, because when you work for yourself, all the training, the education you do, it's all on you. You're not relying on an employer to send you through a program and require you to do training. It's all self-motivated because you have to do it for survival and you have to do it for growth, and you want to get better and improve yourself. So, but if I had not taken on the jobs I explained earlier, I would have never gotten to a place I wanted the risk so bad because I just didn't want to work for anybody. I couldn't work for me. It has nothing to do with anybody. I would be a horrible employee for myself. Um,
You wouldn't hire you?
on paper, I would, but after a month or two, I'd probably regret it. So, yeah,
It's honest. I mean,
I,
I
I,
get it. I feel the same way. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are, and I play to the strengths.
I think I could go through any interview and get hired, for any position. I'm saying they would regret it after a month or two, though. So, and I would fool me too if I was if I was interviewing myself. And that's not because I'm lying or anything like that. My intentions would be
No,
good.
what I'm
It's
hearing
just
is you're
that,
self-aware, and a lot of
yeah,
people aren't. They might be the best employee, but maybe they should give entrepreneurship a shot. Or they might
yeah,
be an entrepreneur and they're kidding themselves because every time, what do I
correct,
need to do? These are my
correct.
favorite people. Ask holes. What should I
Yeah,
do? Oh, this, and this. Year later.
yeah,
What do you think I should do? The same thing you've asked me 17 times the last 17 years.
yeah.
And it's never that I got, well, that's quite a risk. That takes money, that takes time. Hello.
Listen. I used to have. That reminds me. It's so funny you said that because it's it's no different than, you know, I could remember back in some of my earlier days with the agency, and we had a really strong sales team. In the beginning, we were a sales team disguised as a marketing team. All right. Now we're a true marketing team, um, who hopefully can sell well. And so, but we are a great marketing agency. And but that was not the case in the beginning. And I can remember, I feel like one of my strengths is selling. And I feel like I can teach it. I can teach the psychology behind it. And I used to have people come up to me and would ask me, all right, how do I handle this situation? And I'd say, all right, you're going to do this, and here's why. then you're going to do this, and this is how they're going to respond. And here's why then you're going to do this. And I want you to say it exactly like this. And I would play it out with them. I'd role play them and I'd explain the reasoning behind everything because I want them to understand that, right? And then I'd walk down the hall and I'd see him asking other sales reps, what do you think I should do? And I had to stop him. I say, I just told you what I said. The reason that you don't want to do it is because what I'm telling you is hard. It's not easy, right? It's not, there is no easy way to get to where you're trying to go right now. You have to go through this to get there. There is no little magic pill that one word thing you can say that is going to get the client to say, yep, all right, let's do it. And so just like you said, right? People are always asking, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And at some point, do it. There's a brilliance to the Nike commercial. So
and there's also, I'd say there's some success left in the clues there that they haven't changed it or really redid much in the last
yeah
umpteen dozen of years. And I would say I see that as in a lot of entrepreneurs, over time, because now I have time under my belt. I started when I was young, still am,
yeah
but I'm like, I can't believe how many years have passed. But it's
yeah.
like, oh, it's been 2-3 years. This thing we built is actually working. Guess what we should do? Instead of
I
more
will
of the
tell you,
same, let's go do something completely different. I'm like, what company like Nike? They didn't get out of sports and athletics. They may have changed the shoes, they changed the shirts, they changed a few things, but they didn't go, oh, we need a whole new logo, we need a whole new
no,
slogan, we need a whole new
correct.
audience. They
Yeah.
tweaked and refined. So what would
There
you
was
say to
another,
someone who feels compelled to get out of their lane when it's not going perfect, or they're not seeing the success they assumed they
well,
would have?
you have to figure out why. You is it because of you? Is it because you're just not good at it? Is it the product? Is it
Yeah.
the service? There's a lot of things that go into why there's a lot of good companies out there with very bad products and bad customer service that do very well.
Why do
And
you
they
think
have,
that is?
because they have great marketing and sales to back it up. And then there are companies with outstanding products and outstanding client services and customer support who struggle, who, you know, they have a hard time finding payroll. And it's usually because their marketing and sales are not that good. And so at some point, um, in an ideal world, a perfect situation, you've got a great product, great service, and you can market and sell, right? That's the magic. That's where you have the ultra success. And I could never be involved in a company or a business that didn't strive to have good products or good service. And just to get over on people with I couldn't do that. That's not I wouldn't feel good about that. To me, the better your product, the better product you build, the better service you provide. To me, it's easier to sell that because you have more conviction about what you're offering someone, right? It's true to you to the point where you almost feel like that you're doing a disservice to a client or a prospect, or they'll just be foolish to not buy. It's like you can't even understand how they would not do that. Not those are the type of companies or businesses I'd always want to be a part of. But I get back to your original question. I think that's a very complicated answer because I think there's multiple things that could make someone not very good at what they do. I think a lot of people drastically underestimate what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur.
If you had to sum it up in 3 to 5 points, what would you say it takes?
I think, it takes probably 50%, maybe double the hours you think it takes, especially in the beginning. And you are going to be hands on in the beginning. Now, I just told you I'm going to go into a new venture, right? I'm not going to sit there and fool myself and say I'm going into this new venture and I'm diving in back to a 100 hour work week. Because for one, I don't have the knowledge or the experience to do what I have to do. So I'm going to have to rely on people. So my first thought has already been, I've got to, all right, to make this successful. I know what it takes to be successful in what this is going to, in what I'm going to do. And I know two people that I need in order to get that done. And I'm going to make sure I find those two people, and take it from there. So I think underestimating what it takes. I think it takes a lot more effort and a lot more activity and action. So that would be the first one. The second one, I think, takes a lot more preparation than you think. And all of this, I guess, could be folded into under activity and action, right? But
it's
to
specific
me,
actions. And I'll say for anyone listening, because everyone in the world goes, well, here's what you need to be successful. You need to have a dream, follow your passion, go for it. Da, da, da. But until you break it down into the micro steps, it's like, okay, cool. I need to have a passion. I need to have a dream. In Grant, he's like, you don't need a passion. That's crap. You need to do the steps. I've heard him say many times, like, I don't think you should follow your passion because most people are starving that follow their passion.
yeah.
And if you listen to enough people, I've heard arguments that make sense on both sides of the aisle of everything. So,
well, I think
people look into it for themselves.
I think it depends on your passion, right? And I think if you take someone like Grant literally, yeah, but he speaks in generalities a lot, right? And so when I hear that from him, I sit there and I think, all right, I'd like to run a Major League Baseball team. All right. But I could pursue that passion, but no one's hiring me because I have no background and no experience. And by the way, I'm not willing to go through the 10 to 20 years at my age to make that happen. So now I've become a 15
awareness and realization. I think a lot of people just fake themselves out like everything's going to work if I give it a shot. Like, are you kidding me?
No, it doesn't. And you have, but he is right in the sense that no matter what you do, whether it's passion or not, you still have to follow the steps. I would just argue and say if it's not something you love doing, then the steps that you do, you'll still achieve success as long as you have the activity, you're following the right process, But how sustainable is it? How long are you going to enjoy doing it before you burn out of that and want to find something else? So what is it like if my passion was to be a GM and run a store? What was it about that, or run a baseball team? What was it about that made that a passion for me? Well, I love baseball. I love sports, right? So what's involved in sports? Well, competition. Mm-hmm. So can I take that competitiveness to other business ventures? And I apply things like that. And so, now to my fault, I will tell you my biggest regret in my professional career is being too competitive. When you're too competitive, you sometimes think you can do everything on your own. And gosh, I would have gotten so many places faster and much higher if I just collaborated and worked with potential competitors or invited other people in and didn't think I had to do it all on my own. And what I mean by my own, I mean the company itself, not me personally. So the third tip, I'm going to just say, there you go. That leads right into step number 3 is I think never underestimate your network and your relationships and the importance of that. First off, this new idea I alluded to, that is all come about. I did not force it. It just came. And I think, and it all came from just the network I have, the relationships, and the relationships I was able to strengthen while I was out on this trip. And I think when your heart's in the right place and you're helping and you're working with people and you're giving and giving and giving, sometimes it just, for me, it seems like that's when things happen for me most.
Hmm.
When I chase things, they never seem to happen as much as when I'm just uh,
In the
giving.
flow. Yeah.
Correct.
When you're in gratitude and in the flow, it's like you're thinking about, and to the point of, like you're saying, I like to hyper define stuff because
Yeah.
you just said your network. If I hear one more person say your network is your net worth, like, okay, cool, but what does that mean? How many people, so everyone's sitting here parroting that off, but how many people are going, here's what I did, here's how I did it. That person I met, that business card, I actually followed up with them. I actually built the relationship. Here's 3 ideas that you can do if you have no budget. Here's 3 ideas if you have a decent budget. And if you have an unlimited one, you know what I mean? Like, actual
Yeah.
facilitate what are the next steps, not just, oh, okay, I need to follow up with people. Like, really? You couldn't have figured that one out on your own for sales? You need to follow up with people?
Mario, literally the last day, this is after the Pebble Beach Concourse, after that show. Everybody goes back, and these are high net worth people. And at this, we all go back to we're at Spanish Bay, the inn at Spanish Bay. So they got those fire pits in the back overlooking the ocean. It's just a beautiful setting. Everybody's doing their bourbon and their cigars and whatever they're drinking. Uh, just talking about the week, and but everybody starts talking, and this idea comes up. And what's beautiful about it is it's in an area that I don't have a lot of experience, but the people there were more than willing to help me in saying, you can do this, you could do this, here's what you'd have to do. And I'm just sitting here thinking, this isn't hard at all. I am going to do this. um I am 100% certain it'll be successful. And it also, by the way, I think that's a mindset that has to happen. Now, you can't be a fool. You have to have and that's another thing Grant says, following your passion. Sometimes we follow our passion and we're fooled by that instead of following the money. And what I mean by that is this: how many times have you seen a business owner start a business, have an idea of a direction it needs to go and a vision? The client and prospects are telling him or her, it really would be better if it would did this too, or if it only did this over here that you keep talking about. We don't really care about that. We care about this. But they're so rigid on getting everybody to buy into that vision in that direction. Something you have to be willing to be very flexible, and more importantly, listen to what your clients and your prospects are telling you, because they're the only, I like to quote Jay Abraham a lot, right? They're the only vote that matters in this marketplace, because they vote with their time and they vote with their money. And so you have to pay attention and be willing to be very flexible and adjust whatever vision or direction that you have. So we've talked about vision. We've talked, or being flexible and listening, right, to clients. We've talked about your network and your relationship building and relying on them. Not for just, it's not just about the opportunities when it comes to your network and relationship.
About serving them.
But it's about when you serve them and you've got real relationships, they will provide you with the experience or knowledge needed to accomplish things that you weren't on your own able to accomplish. You can go through years, you can have years of experience. I mean, for people that have already, if you just pay attention to people that have already achieved whatever goal you're setting out to achieve. Right. And so, but you got to have the network and the relationships built to where that can be an honest communication back and forth, and they genuinely and sincerely want to help you. And so that's why that's important. I think the activity is important. So I've given you like 4 of them, so I'm not going to get to 5.
Well, 4 is good, and I appreciate it because like I said, I like breaking it down because so many people just say the generalities and platitudes, but it's like, well, what does
Right.
that mean?
No,
And what I was hearing a lot in there is, even though, and I think you could come up with five if you really wanted to,
I can.
but
It'll probably come up before the end of the show.
but I think, but what I was hearing in that experience of you being at this event was, it wasn't just, oh, I'm having fun, even though you
No.
were. It wasn't just, I'm here to get opportunity, but you were open to it. And when the people, you also humbled yourself to realize, even though I am awesome and accomplished all this, I don't know this area, but these people can help me. So I'm going to listen to them. I think that's a lost art in and of itself. And combined, that's how you came up with the solution. It wasn't any one thing. It was a
Right.
combination of all of it in the right order at the right time.
Yeah. No, I think that's an accurate way to say it. Hey, let me ask you, what would be, I know you don't want to list all five, what would be, two or three of the things you would say in terms of someone that's going out to be an entrepreneur and they should pay a lot of attention to or focus on? You're a
First and
successful one.
I, I'm back on your show now. No, I would have to say I would agree with you. Have to be willing to do whatever it takes,
Yeah.
legal, moral, and ethical, but not fool yourself early on thinking, oh, I, I've even done this after I got to certain points of success, going, well, now I am successful, so this next thing will be easier. All these people will want to help me.
No,
No,
no.
um, not always true, but you have to realize, first and foremost, I actually really, really want to be doing this, because it's not going to go perfect. It's going to be a mess at times. And if you can't stand through that, it's not going to work regardless of what format you're following. So I do believe you have to have some passion. You can't be bored out of your mind just going through the motions, to a degree. But at the same token, just because you have a passion doesn't ensure you need to have going to receive the success. You
Let
have
me
to
let me ask you this, and I ask this only because I'm going to ask it and also kind of explain how I feel about it.
go for it.
When you're an entrepreneur and you're responsible for the livelihood of a lot of people, and sometimes, because it's our thing, right? We It can become a very emotional thing in the sense that
Mm-hmm.
we're driven. We want to see our clients succeed and we want to see the business succeed. And we know what that'll mean in terms of creating opportunities for everyone. But it doesn't, there's no matter how good of a culture you have or whatever you have in your head of what you think your culture is, the reality is, with the exception of maybe an outlier here and there, there's very few employees, no matter how great they are, how good their attitude is, or how good how good they are at their job. They're never going to have the same level of, I don't want to say commitment, but emotional attachment to the business the way you have it. And I think sometimes, and especially for me, at least, especially early on, I always felt it always confused me when someone else didn't want to put in as much time or effort or understand why it was so important to really do a specific project or something we might be working on and get it done in a certain amount of time. And I think it's important to understand that that's why you're going to have to, especially early on, if you have not achieved high levels of success yet where you can just afford to get teams in and do things, you're going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting yourself. And you cannot expect people that aren't going to have the exact same payout in the end that you do. And that goes financially and just something I think, when you're an entrepreneur and you start something and you succeed at a high level, it goes beyond the financial, right? There's a sense of achievement that comes.
100%.
And no matter how well an employee does or contributed to that achievement, they probably aren't going to feel the same level of high as you might feel. They have families, they have other responsibilities that are probably more important to them than your company. And so sometimes that can be a tough, uh, uh, especially if you're a new entrepreneur. I don't know if everybody fully understands that and gets that. And so you've got to be willing to do a lot of the work and lead by example, uh, a lot more than you think. I think some people in their head think I'm going to be an entrepreneur and then I'm going to eventually hire these people and they'll just do all the stuff.
And then I can walk away and do nothing, and they have an idea. I agree 100%, 150%, and I would add in some of the best things that have happened are because I care so much and I'm
Yeah,
emotionally invested.
yeah,
I will also admit some of the worst things that have happened are because I'm so emotionally, and don't, it's just business. Don't take it personal. Are you kidding me? Do you know what I've given up and done over the last decades? You're going to tell me to not take this personal? You're
yeah.
lucky if I don't hit you with a hammer in the head.
When a good employee quits, and let's just say I had an executive assistant that was with me for, I want to say, about 10 years. And by the way, I have not been able to replace her since. And it's been 10 years.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, it's she was phenomenal. And and she left for the right reasons, by the way, because at that time I was holding her back, not intentionally, but looking back now, because she's achieved so much, I'm so happy for her. Um, but at the time, I didn't feel betrayed, or it wasn't like an anger towards her. It was a hurt because I truly, it came out of nowhere for me. And, uh, but it's 100% emotional. There's no way around it. I just think, but as long as you're aware
Yes.
that it's not the same level of emotion for no matter how close this employee might be, or how, or their level of responsibility, or how good they might have it, it's not the same level of emotion for them as it is you. And and therefore you have to, and when I said I was trying to transition out, right, and I knew that it was time for me to take on something else and put somebody else in charge. Well, I'm no longer leading by example here at J&L, but I
But you
have
did
someone
before you
that I
transition out, so that way when the transition happens, it's the right
correct.
transition. It's not just you looking cool going, oh, I hired someone to take over, and then 2 months later you go, oh, they're doing a bad job. Because my question at that point is, well, what are your trainings and standard operating procedures? What did you have in place, and did they catch the vision for the next 3 to 5 years?
Correct. That's
Usually it's,
right.
oh, I hired someone, they said they're going to be good, and they're not. Well, you gave them nothing to run with or any structure.
Yeah.
Whose fault
Yeah.
is it really? Okay, well, yeah, of course it's not you.
Yeah.
No, that hits
The
close to home because for my software that I designed to build WordPress websites automatically in under 5 minutes, it's 10 year, it's over 10 years old now, and my lead programmer, like literally just in the last few months, I mean, he's been working with me for a decade, and he's been doing more and more stuff, and I'm very excited for him, very happy for him, and I have someone new in place, and I'm excited about where that's going to go. But it was a shock, and I'm like, what do I do? You know what I mean? It's like a
yeah.
decade, and we started off, and it was fun to do the ideas and everything, and then it just got so streamlined, it was effortless. But I'm happy to say he's doing well, and again, you know, I'm not going to try and compete with Amazon right now because he's working on their stuff. So on your next Prime delivery, he may have had something to do with it from the programming infrastructure. But our last call we had, he gave me, in about 25 minutes, gave me an idea of where I could take the thing for the next 10 years, and the computing
Yeah.
and the coding that's out available now that wasn't even around 10 years ago. And I'm just like, we can go from doing 100 sites in an hour to 1,000. He's like, we
Yeah.
can do 1,000 sites like instantaneously. I'm like,
By the way, that executive assistant, the trip I just went on was monumental in helping me arrange and advise me on make sure you do this, this, and this.
So
Because
you,
she's well
so I'm
connected.
what I'm hearing is you're still in touch with her and you still have the relationship.
Oh, the relationship's great. Yeah. The
That's awesome.
yeah, and she works for a person I've actually had on. She works with someone I've actually had as a guest on our show, and uh, he's the reason I went out to Monterey. He was the one that talked me into going, and thank God he did. It's I'm very thankful for it. So, but
Yeah,
he
it sounds
stole
like
her,
it.
but he did steal her.
Yeah, I mean, it, and that's
But it
another
worked
thing
out
that's
well for
been
everyone.
hard for me is like you get it to a point where it's like, oh my gosh, everything's running smoothly. Then all of a sudden, boom, 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 and it's like, holy smokes! Like,
Mario. So if anybody's listening, I need a really high quality executive assistant. All
we,
right, so
you
this
know
will be
what
a
I'll
cheap
do?
plug for that.
Uh, Feel free. If you have an application or somewhere, I'm happy to put in the show notes to redirect straight to you.
Well, if they go to, you'll have J&L marketing in
Yeah.
there in the link. So yeah, they could go to the career section there.
Okay. Yeah, happy
Yeah,
to do it. I
that'd be
mean,
awesome.
I would love for you to say, yeah, I've had her for 10 years, 10 years from now, and says a result
And
of this. Always looking to add
they
value.
can also reach out to me, private message, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. So,
Yeah, and I'm really enjoying this because I think it's a lot of the behind the scenes. You, a lot of people don't share because it's not always, oh look, it's glitz and glam, but at
oh
the
no,
same point, it's the reality, and it's why I wanted to talk about it with you because there's so few people who can talk about it at this level for the period of time in detail.
where you know what you go. I'm going to go back to your first question because you just said something that triggered a thought.
Okay.
How do you know when you need to move on, or how do you know? In the beginning when you're working on something, you really things don't work out. It's frustrating. Not all the clients or prospects say yes to you. You have all kinds of problems and issues with whether it's uh, people not doing what they're supposed to, or somebody leaves you, or all the different challenges and obstacles, barriers that come with a business or a process or a service, whatever. But when you're doing the right thing, those type of things don't stop you from continuing to put in the 60, 70, 80 hours, 100 hours a week, right? Because you're working towards something that you really love. When all of a sudden those frustrations, those same obstacles and challenges and barriers, you don't feel like working on them, I think that's a sign that you need to take a step back and look at, all right, what am I doing here? When you're no longer willing to put up that fight, not in a give up way, but in a just a uh, it's time. I think, and that for me, like it was just became some of the things I used to be excited about bored me.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
You know, it's one reason I started the show. I've said it, but not a ton of times. After I lost Dad in 2017, I was younger than I was now because it's after 2017 for anyone listening that didn't get that little loop. And I was really like, I've accomplished a lot. I'm excited about it. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I didn't feel like I'm just getting started. I literally was like, do I want to do this? What am I doing? Why am I here? I like just went, psh, and slowly it was, and I had this epiphany at church just a few days ago because it was so surreal with the guest speaker we had in. It reminded me of 2017 because it was 2017. I was sitting in the front row at church, and the speaker's going, "Are you honoring God in your work?" And I'm like, "Kinda." I'm like, I'm kind of doing
Yeah.
the like what everyone does, but I go, if I'm being honest with myself here, I'm going not as much as I could, not as, and I just started thinking about it. And what came from that is God gave me the vision to go, you did acting, you did modeling, you've done speaking, you like this, and this. You've helped dozens of people with their shows from my marketing company. I've done a ton of video. This is my background, special effects animation. But it was always this little, oh, let me do something cute for you. Let me do something cute for you. It was never this like laser spear where it's like, look what I can do. I am awesome. I can help
Yeah.
you. And just take that confidence. I never had, I guess I could say, never had that true confidence to go, yeah, this is me. Um, I think I was segmenting it myself just because it was like my natural state is let's have fun and humor and stuff. But when I got serious, I go, oh my gosh, the last literally 20, 30, 35 plus years was even when I was a kid, there was stuff that I've incorporated. I go, literally everything I've ever done thinking that was my career path, the only one has just went shh. And same thing with publishing. It's why I redid the book and everything. I go, I've been doing this so long, but I never did that laser spear focus. The second I did,
Hmm.
it was like, oh, maybe I should have done this a little bit sooner. I used to joke about it, but you know, the path you're on leads you to where you're going in the right direction. I always knew I was on the right path, but until I realized it in myself and went, this is what I need to do. This is what I can do with the rest of my life. Oh my gosh, thank you. I was like, my mind just went from I'm sad, I'm depressed, this sucks, to I'm still sad, this still sucks, but there's a whole lot more people I can help. And now I really am just getting started. I have 70 more years. Now what? I'm not going to sit around and just stare at the wall. And I
That's right.
started putting the pieces in places, and that's what led it to me. Because I was like,
You, you,
I can't do what I was doing for another 10 minutes, let alone 10 years, and 10
right.
years would have been nothing. I literally have 70 plus left, 80, 100, whatever.
Well, first off, it would have been a shame with hair like yours not to do some modeling. But the it's
Appreciate it.
still phenomenal. I don't know how old you are, but that is I envy it because you can see I'm thinning out now. But I'm gonna give you your fifth one. And I can't believe I did not think of this first. It should be number one. And you alluded to it, is focus. I've been posting about it nonstop
Oh,
here
I know. I
for
took
the
your
last
poll.
few weeks. Yeah.
I'm
And
glad to see it
so,
won out.
yeah. Oh, eh, focus is greater than time. Time is greater than money. Right. What a lot of entrepreneurs where they struggle or fail at, they get lured by a bunch of shiny things and fads, and they start allowing those distractions to keep them from doing the type of activities that will actually move the needle and get them closer to achieving their goal. And so there's focus on that. There's your own mental focus. It's easy for you one thing I do in the morning, I've got a pretty strict routine in the morning. And I think if you listen to a lot of successful people, most start their day a certain way. And I'm not saying that there's one way to start the day, but one thing that for me that's very important, I get up early. Um, I do not pull out my phone and hit social media right away. And the reason I don't do it is it overstimulates me. And when you become overstimulated, it's very hard to go back and focus on the things that you have to do, all right, to move the needle, to get closer to accomplishing your goal. Because it's very difficult for the things that have to be done to be more stimulating or enjoyable than scrolling through a bunch of Instagram reels that are entertaining you, right? And you can just get lost in that. And the reason I don't pull out my phone is because I might be going through and see a reel that I need to comment on or pay attention to. Maybe it's a friend I want to help support. Could be my own company stuff. But the problem with reels is, right, once it's done, it goes to the next reel. And the next thing you know, you're just down this rabbit hole of reels, and you can't break away. And so it just numbs you, and it's bad for your mind. So I get up in the morning early, drink a lot of water. I start with my cup of coffee to get things going and get my mind sharp so I'm not feeling tired. I go out on my front porch. I pray. I read scripture. I write down something I'm grateful for in a journal. And then I start working on projects. All right. I'm not someone that can exercise early in the morning. It's not sustainable for me. I've tried it. So I work out at noon. All right. But that's a reward for me as long as I get a project or two done that I want to work on before that time. And by the way, I think most studies show your mind is sharper in the morning than it is as the day wears on. So a lot of times I'll go into social later in the day, make my comments, my likes, respond to people, answer my direct messages, private messages, what have you. But I found that I'm much more productive when I start my day off with something that's very calm and grounded for me and peaceful. And so I start every day like that, uh, and then I dive in. So focus would be your fifth, but I would rank it number one.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah,
No different than editing a book.
that's right.
Just get the ideas out, rearrange them. But yeah, focus, I would have to say, is a great one. And I love that you shared the morning routine too. Let me ask you that in regards to the morning routine.
Yeah.
Is there a specific time that is the keeper of all success? If you wake up at this time, you're successful, but if you wake up at this time, you're not.
No, not for me. I think that's, I know there's a lot of people out there that push, I'm up at 4, I'm up at 4:30, I'm up at 5. I'm not up at 4. I'm not up at the only time I'm up at 4 is to use the restroom. So, at my age, that's what happens. So, you know, if I'm up at 5, I'm up. And if I'm up at 5:30, I'm up at 5:30. But usually I'm never sleeping past 6:30.
Okay.
So, but that's just me. Um, I think I think if you read something about Jeff Bezos, his mornings, he doesn't even take meetings until after 10 because it says his mornings are important to him.
Yes.
He likes to relax and start his day off in a thing where he doesn't take meetings before 10 a.m. And so, if he's not taking them before 10, I'm assuming he's not waking up at 8:30. So, he's waking up early, but he's filling his day with things that are just more productive for how his, I think everybody's different,
Yeah,
and
and I think people have to realize that too. I know some scenarios where people got divorced, they got the kids are important as they should be, and so
yeah,
what they did is the mornings were with the kids, and they didn't they lived on the East Coast, and the whole business was built on the West Coast because of the time zone difference. So they got
yep,
ready with the kid in the morning, to and then when they're at school, started doing all the sales calls and everything, built the whole
yeah.
company during school hours, and then spent time with them. So the kid didn't know any. I'm like, that is so awesome.
That,
And
well, you just brought up something that's very. There are specific situations where you have to have a routine
mhm,
at certain times because that's what in that
that's what it
situation it
takes.
dictates that. That's exactly what it takes. If I wasn't able to work out at noon and I couldn't do it late in the evening, when I was single, I'd work out after work, after hours, and I'd do it on my way home. I wouldn't go home first, or I'd never get back to the gym. I'd do it on the way. But after you get married, you can't do that. You could, I guess, but I felt guilt. I didn't feel good for me because I felt like I was being selfish with my time. Right? I could be home with the kids. I could be home with my wife, and instead I'm at the gym. So I do that at noon. Uh, and that's why it's sustainable for me. But to your point, yeah, I think that you just got to. I think everything's different. It depends on your situation and what circumstances that you're dealt, and or that you're dealing with, and you have a great plan. Like some of my best work comes 2 in the morning. I mean, you're in book publishing business, right? I mean, you can't tell me that some of the best writing doesn't happen between 11 and 3 a.m. when no one else is up disturbing you. All right. And it's just 100%
It's
quiet.
the beauty of nowadays is you don't have to go away in a log cabin and have every scenario perfect. It's like I've been at a red light and an idea hits me. I've been in a waiting room. There's times I have intentionally sat down here and went nuts, and there's other times I was just on the boat, sitting on the patio, whatever the case is, going. I have an idea. I'm
Yeah.
not on my phone. I'm relaxing, but when the idea hits,
You got to
document
go
it,
with it. Yep.
put in Basecamp or whatever, and when I get back to that mode, incorporate it, integrate it.
Yep.
Whatever the
That's right.
case is, but it's like I I think parts of every single one of my books have been written in hot tubs.
Yeah.
Love it. Your ideas are the same. So this whole thing, like, we need to do this formal thing. Like, are you
Mhm.
kidding me? Let's go to a cabana and floating around all day. Like, I guarantee you we'll come up with some good stuff by dinner.
Yeah. No, I agree. 100%.
But hey, the success article says this, so I have to follow it to like.
Now, the only thing that I said that's strict for me is what I will not do in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that is I will not pull out my phone. Right, that's not going to be the first thing I'm looking at.
But you're
And
missing the news.
no, I don't. I don't. By the way, I pay no attention to any news at any time of the
I'm
day.
teasing. It reminds
Yeah,
me of
I've
the what's the movie Office Space. He's like, well, Bob, I wouldn't say I've been missing it.
I don't. There is zero news that comes through. I'm very protective of what I put up here.
Same here.
Yeah.
I actually, it's why I have everything in Basecamp. As far as urgency stuff, there's times I don't even check the email till midday, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let's see. It could be anything, and I have them segregated out so like nothing's really even attached to my personal email. So that way, when I see you emailing me, I know it's
Yeah.
important, and I'm not missing it, or something for the show, or something with publishing or the software. And it's just like I know, so I'm on all these lists. That's no different than a Facebook newsfeed.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook newsfeed eradicator. I don't get the newsfeed on desktop. So as a matter
Yeah.
of fact, when I'm live streaming the show right now, if I were to try, if you say check out the newsfeed, I couldn't. It nothing comes through. So.
I've went as far as, I've got the iPhone, so they got the news app, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have blocked anything political, any channel, any publication, anything on that phone that's political has been blocked by me. I get none of it because it doesn't serve me. It doesn't, it puts me in a bad mental spot, and it doesn't change. It's not changing how I'm voting. It's not changing. So why am I putting it in? Why am I,
Mm-hmm.
your brain only has the capacity for so much information, right? So you can, the more good you put into it, the less room there is for bad.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the opposite. So if you're filling it with a bunch of bad and consuming too much news, which is all bad typically, because it's all sensationalized to get us to pay attention, click, read, watch, whatever. It you're not leaving enough for the good. It's like a gallon of milk. When you got a gallon of milk and it's water, right? Let's say, or a gallon of water, all right, and you got that neck, and as you pour it, you hear the gulp, gulp, gulp. Well, what that gulping is, it's the air, the negative coming in, forcing the water out. And so as more air comes in, less water. And so it's the same with your brain, good and bad info. And so I just make sure I try to be conscious when bad stuff's entering so I can stop it.
Yeah, 100%. Because the best hours of the day are when once you get going, and I think too many people just don't have a routine, don't get ready, or they come into the office regardless of location. They're
Yeah.
just not prepared for it. It's like when you get there, you should be ready to attack and everything, but then also know how to step away. So when you're out of that, and I'm talking mindset, you can
Yep.
relax. So it's not like you feel bad. It's like, hey, I'm happy with the uh, quantity and quality of the work I put in today. I'm smirking because it's actually from the office. They're trying to
Yeah.
leave, and the boss is keeping them there 4 hours after on St. Patrick's Day. And anyway, but they're just like, you have to know how to differentiate. And some of the times I've gotten the most aggravated, it's like I want to keep going. I've argued with sleep before. I want to keep going. I want to keep going. I'm on a roll, and you're in that flow state. And it's like, yeah, you are being more productive because you can go a day and a half like in flow better than a week around sitting around and having 15 interruptions. And it's like,
Yeah.
so I love everything we're sharing. I don't even know what time it is, but I feel like I should ask you about the wheel of whatever so we can do a little bit more. I could talk to you for hours like we've already done, but if you have a few more minutes, I do want to
Sure.
get this. Here we go. It's usually in front of me. I forgot. So, the wheel, whatever. Yellow or
Uh-oh.
black?
Black.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it landed here. Um, so my question for you is, how do you know? I was going to ask you about a location you've never been to. I want to ask you something deep, and you're giving such good detail. But like, how do you know when it's time to go? Okay, I'm going to do this big trip, or I'm going to do a big travel thing, or I'm going to do this event that I've
For
always wanted to do. Like, actually pursue your dream, not the dream of I want to have the business, I want to have this, but like do buy a private jet, buy that car, buy that thing. Like, how do you know when it's really the right time? And is there anything in particular that you do before you do that, or do you just go out and do it?
um I'm pretty much a just do it guy. The my work life balance is integrated. I can tell you right now, if it wasn't for my some of my friends and family and just some of the activities that tend to go happen, that more social functions seem to happen more on the weekend because most people are off on the weekend, I wouldn't know my Monday from my Saturday. So I work every day, I play every day. Yeah. So I work every day, I play every day. Um, but as far as the Jets, we got two. And you know how I decided to do those? I put it off, put it off, put it off because I'm thinking I'm not spending money on that. And then I had someone that actually knew more about them than me said, well, you can, this is what happens with your taxes on this. And when you charter it, you can make this. So those are not expenses for us. Those are profit centers. Um, and I don't know if everybody understands it. Now, if you're just buying it to fly around in it, you know, I use it maybe 2 or 3 times a year. It's not like every time I'm flying private. It has to make sense for me, and there's a convenience weight and
Cost to benefit ratio?
correct. And so but for the most part, that thing's being chartered out to people, and it makes it makes money. So it cash flows very well, both of them. So I would encourage anybody to look into that. But it's like anything else right now. It's not the best time to buy um, something like that, only because supply and demand is not uh, they're probably going to come down here in about 12 months.
What about the vacations and like long family, extended family trips and stuff?
Well,
I know you said you have it integrated, but let's go back 10,
I
15
have
years
never
to your
taken
first one.
I've never taken like that month-long trip. All right.
Oh,
Mine,
why not?
I've never done. I haven't been comfortable enough to do that yet. The in the sense of,
Oh, this is interesting. What would that take for you? Because, like, why
well,
not?
I've got little ones, so that limits it to summer months.
Okay.
Um, it's a
Everyone's
good
pretty much
question.
off June and
It's
July,
it's
so
yeah, it's a good question.
you could pick one of them.
That would be fun. Most of my vacations and trips are all like 7 days, 10 days, the longest 2 weeks, depending on where I'm going. If I'm going to Hawaii, that, from Louisville, that would be a 2 weeker. Uh, but yeah, a lot of them are 7 days.
Did we just identify a stretch goal?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't need to be a goal because I think I'm just gonna, it's a good idea.
I mean, it's not
So
like
I
you
think,
couldn't. You just said you
no,
have
I
two
can.
jets.
Yeah. Well,
You have people
That
running
I don't need them
agencies.
to go where I don't need to go there, but it's a great idea because, I could, it won't happen this summer because I've got a newborn, but the next, it can definitely happen without feeling actually, and it would work. I'm going to sell myself here. Would actually work out much better because then I wouldn't feel the pressure of when you're living there with the newborn. It's just a different location, right? It's not like the hassle of packing everything up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like that.
Okay. I knew something good was going to come to that. But yeah, that's the
That's
thing is
great.
because the rewards.
I've never thought to do it.
Yeah. What was it? I think it was Robert Kiyosaki. He said, until you can take 6 months off and your business doesn't crumble, you don't have a business. I'm like, wow. And
Yeah.
I heard that 20 years ago. I'm like, I need to hire at least one person then. And I think that was one of my first hires. I was like, if someone's going to be running this, I got to at least get someone other than me in here. I was like, wow, that really stretched me 6 months.
Yeah.
But
That's
it's that
I
reward of, I think people, like we talked about that time freedom and the freedom to do what you want. And it's like, oh, I'd love to be flying around doing whatever I want whenever I want. Okay, well, you can build a business to get to that point.
yeah.
But what holds us back from when it's at that point?
It's such a great thing because I was skiing last winter, and I remember this. I was riding up the lift with someone that you know was sitting there saying, "Yeah, we're going here, then we're going here, we're going here." It was a month and a half, and I remember thinking, "God, that's a lot of skiing. What the heck do you do?" Right? But I've
We
just,
own all the resorts.
but I said it at the beginning, right? I am learning to get comfortable with the flexibility I now have.
Okay.
And so to answer your question, why I have not done it, I probably never just thought it was something I should or could do, not because the business would crumble. I just think that there was still that control part of it and
Yeah.
just this guilt of like leaving it.
I'll give you one more, and then I'm going to thank our sponsor, and we'll come back for the imperfect action round. But again, congrats on the newborn.
Thank
Um,
you.
you've got 18 to 20 some years of.
Yeah.
I would absolutely be going. Okay, we can do this
Oh
and
yeah.
this and this. Like, how fun is that?
No, you're right. In fact, it's less of a hassle to spend a long period of time somewhere versus packing up and packing back for that.
So I guess I'll
Yeah.
put the cherry on top. I was going to ask you where's somewhere you'd love to go that you haven't. Do you have any
Well,
of those
I
left, or
know
have you done a lot of
I have
traveling?
not. I've not been to. I've most of my travel has all been Caribbean, Hawaii, Mexico, and that type of stuff. So I'm going over to Europe next. We'll be in Italy next summer. So looking forward to that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. Well, like I said, I could talk to you for hours. You're awesome, but I'm going to thank the sponsor. We'll come back for the imperfect action round. You're already the expert, but have you transformed your expertise into a tangible asset that will generate and qualify leads while increasing profit for you 24/7? And if so, how well are you promoting it? With the Expert Authority Effect publishing method, it's easier and faster than ever. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit generating business book in 8 weeks. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com to get started now. Once again, that's freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com. And we are back with the imperfect action round. Scott, are you ready to take imperfect action?
I think so.
First question for you. What is the fastest path to the cash or profits?
What is the fastest path to cash or profits?
Yes. And you can't just
Uh,
say sales or sales and marketing.
when you say, I would say referrals.
Okay.
I would say
Referrals.
if um, faster closing times. Uh, you've got third party or you've got social proof right out the gate with people that they trust and have relationships with. If you're doing a good job with your product or service, I think if you that doesn't mean you have one line of leads coming in, one stream of referrals coming in from only one lead source. I think you have to have multiple ways to try and get those referrals. But if all you did was focus on referrals, I think that would be the fastest way to growth.
I like that. That's a good one.
And it's the least expensive.
Yeah, and it goes right back to that network.
Yeah.
You're being nice to people, they're going to reciprocate.
Yeah.
Number 2, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way they can fix it?
Prospects? So potential clients. Well, because we're in the digital marketing world with paid media, search, display, discovery, paid social, I think most of them don't understand. They don't have a true strategy. I think if you are asked most business leaders, marketers, or anybody managing any type of marketing spend, what their strategy is, I think the common answer that you would get most frequently is, well, we spend this much in search, we spend this much in social, we spend this much on display or discovery, whatever it is, but that's not a strategy. That's just a segmentation of your budget. A strategy would sit there and be
profit and loss statement.
Correct. A strategy, like, let me take auto, for example. We do a ton of business with auto dealers and then auto manufacturers. So right now they don't have inventory, right? So you've got to reallocate funds, and you have a strategy to acquire vehicles, used vehicles that they can sell. They may have certain models that they want to do. They might want to have a certain strategy for client retention. It's not about the channels you're using. It's about the strategy that's going to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And then the channels are just part of, you're analyzing and optimizing the spend where you're getting the biggest return on the dollar. And that just dictates what channels and how much should go to what. What is your actual strategy to get there? I think is the biggest mistake they made. They lack one.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing again is it's not any one thing. It's that deeper meaning that's specific to what your goals are and where you're looking to go. It's not so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this, so that's why we're doing it. It's we're doing this specifically because we know the open rate of email is 86% versus this is 26%.
Correct. That's correct.
In direct mail, I'd love to ask you what's the highest you've ever seen in a direct mail campaign? More than
in
one
terms
or two? Like
when you
the response rate. Have you ever seen direct mail in the 5 or 10%?
Oh yeah.
In a big way though.
The average is 2%.
Okay.
The average is 2, but have I seen 5? I don't know if I've ever seen 10. I've definitely seen over 5. But to me, it still goes back to what are you trying to sell and why? What are you trying to accomplish? And then what are the best channels to approach that? Where's the budget that needs to have that? But how are you setting it up? And especially in the digital world where your account structure has to be set up based on what your goals are, right? And so, and I think that's where the strategy falls short. I think there's a lot of templated cookie cutter stuff out there.
100%.
Yeah.
I know people that sell email and badmouth direct mail, and I know people that do direct mail and badmouth email. It's like, why wouldn't you use them in conjunction?
Yep. Correct. Yep.
Anyway.
Listen, direct mail works very well right now. You're not competing against a lot of, 15, 20 years ago, you came back from your mailbox with a stack 6 to 12 inches high. Now you're lucky to get 3 or 4 pieces of mail a day. Mm-hmm. It's easy to grab attention with direct mail right now. You're not competing against anybody. Now you've got to weigh the cost. I think but that goes back to the strategy too, right? There are certain segments from an audience that I wouldn't target with direct mail. Invite, and some that make a lot of sense too. So it just depends on the message and the offer and who your audience is.
One of my favorite things with book publishing is You can give someone a book. You can mail a book. You can act, it's a physical, tangible product.
Yep.
It's a direct mail piece also.
Yep. That's right.
Number 3, what is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
Well, first, know what it is. You can't maximize something until you actually determine what the lifetime value of a client or customer is. So
Hmm.
I think that's a good question.
That question
I
will
love
never
this.
leave.
I love this question, and here's why. Every business I've been a part of, I mentioned earlier Jay Abraham. I'm a big
He's cool.
student of his, and if you listen to his 3 ways to grow a business, it is increase your active client base. All right, increase the frequency of how often those clients are buying, and then increase the average transaction value. It's a very simple formula, but if you take your active client base now and let's say it's 100 and you just want to grow it 10%. So at the end of the year, I want 110 active clients. It's 10% improvement. It's not a big ask, right? Now, there's a lot of strategies that would go into that. You can't lose them as fast as you're acquiring new ones, or you break even, right? So you've got to have good retention uh, things in there built in. You're trying to retain more and you're trying to acquire more. So now I just want to grow 10%. Now I'm at 110. If I increase how frequently people buy from me, if they bought, 3 times a year from me and now they buy 3.3, 10% improvement. All right. If someone averages the average transaction values for easy math, $1,000, and now I average throughout the course of a year 1,100, a 10% improvement. Over the course, if you do the math on that, and I don't care what vertical you're in, if you do the math on that, that's a 33% increase in top line in gross profit. Now, if you go to people and you go to your business leaders and you say we're going to grow 33% this year, you're probably going to have some people that shake their head or start doubting if that's possible. You focus on those 3 things and you just do 10, 10, and 10, it will come up to a 33% impact. So the quickest way to optimize lifetime value is, you're not optimizing lifetime value by acquiring new, but if you have good retention strategies and you're focusing on getting to buy more often from you, what other things can you cross sell and upsell that can also raise the average transaction value? If you just focus on those 3 things, I think those are the easiest way to optimize your lifetime value.
Really, really solid answer. Love it. I agree. Jay's great, and I remember
Yeah.
hearing that stuff too. But so many people think like, what's the best way to do? Oh, I should do an email campaign.
Yeah.
Well, one, a single can't. I'm gonna behave here. This has been going so well. I know you've read some
That's just a tactic.
stuff in my
Yeah, that's
book.
a
Yeah, it's a
tactic,
tactic.
right? Yeah. So
I have enough snark in the book, but I'm trying to behave here. So, is there anything else you'd love to share that I haven't asked? I know you have you're a wealth of wisdom, but this is it, unfortunately, for now.
no, man, I think we've covered a lot. It's been an honor being on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, the honor's mine. I'm so glad you could do it, and I know it's extreme value. I have no idea what time it is, but I feel like we've gone just a few minutes
I've
over
missed a
here.
meeting, but I'm going to explain to him, hey,
Oh,
I was
jeez.
I was on a show, but it's all good.
Um, well, with that, I won't ask you anything else.
No,
It's
you.
been great to see you, and oh, I will ask you something, but I got to turn this off first. It's been an honor. I can't wait to
It
do it
has.
again. And how
Yep.
do I close this off? Expert Authority World, help me out here. What do I do? Okay, Expert Authority World. Here's another great episode. I'll see you on the next one, and there'll be more. So, all right. Expert Authority World. We have another great episode here today. I'll see you on the next one. Have a